to the Gransberry Chronicles Weekly Pick'ems Week 2. I'm your girl, the Gransberry, and on my left, I got my boy, Coach B. Pat, and on my right, I got my boy, D. Jones, and we are ready for Week 2. But first, let's say, hey, welcome back, NFL with fans.
For
Man,
sure.
look, week 1 had everybody excited, just trying to see their teams again for the first time. We, and I do mean a collective we, were glad to see the Houston Texans get a win over Jacksonville this past weekend. They showed up, showed out. Tyrod Taylor welcomed himself into Houston just fine. And we all picked them to win, but we were definitely pleased with the week 1 performance. And then we cannot forget to mention the actual Vegas versus Baltimore game. To me, it ended up being game of the week. It was a perfect start to week 1 with Tampa and Dallas. Of course, Tampa pulled it out like we thought they would. Dallas gave us a good showing. Shout out to Dallas. Shout out to Dak. But we ended it perfectly. What better way with an overtime game? Constant score changes in the last 2 minutes, including overtime. And now it's time for week 2. But we don't have time to go over every game because, guys, guess what? Some things need to just be out the way. So, D. Jones, why don't you run those games? We're going to get out the way before we get into week 2.
All right, this week's get them out the way picks are pretty simple. We all picked the same teams, no solos on this one. Giants over Washington, New England over the Jets, Denver over Jacksonville, the Rams to beat Indy, Cincy to beat Chicago, Arizona over Minnesota, Tampa Bay over Atlanta, and Green Bay rebounds this week and take out Detroit. That's the get them out of the way picks.
All right, so our first game up, it's not much to say. We have New Orleans versus Carolina, but we had to put this game on the list because shout out to famous Jameis showing up in Jacksonville this weekend when he took on Green Bay. Look, everybody was startled, confused, couldn't figure it out. Not because we don't think Jameis can play, not because we didn't expect him to return to star quality that he had in 2019, but because we just wasn't ready to see him under black and gold starting center and see how it looked. We all said, we wish you luck. And we were all wrong on that pick. So shout out to Jameis for proving us all wrong on the show and getting a win. But this week, Jameis, it's a given. We with you, buddy. I, the Gransberry, am picking the Saints on the road. What about you, Coach?
Saints.
That's all you got for them? That's all you got.
I don't care how they win. They're going to win. So, Saints.
Yeah, I feel you on this. The division game against Carolina, they handled my boys pretty good. I knew the day was going to be a long day when I saw one play, and Jameis had like 2 weeks in the pocket. Nobody was even close to him. Nobody got open, but he threw the ball away instead of trying to force it. So I was like, this is not going to be our day. So I just kind of hung it up at that point. And I think that was in like the second quarter, maybe even the first quarter. So definitely think the Saints not rebound, but can keep it rolling and take out a division foe in Carolina.
Well, we'll move it right along. And look, let's talk about Buffalo versus Miami. Another good division matchup. Buffalo, suffered a loss, proved us all wrong last week when we picked them to beat Pittsburgh. Didn't happen. But, they're on the road this week against Miami. I would say Allen's a little stronger under center than Tua. And even with the Miami being at home, I'm still going with Buffalo on the road. D. Jones?
Yeah, I think we all were shocked at both of these teams last week. Miami going on the road to take care of New England, and then Buffalo falling short with Pittsburgh. I'm riding with you with Buffalo on this. I think they rebound after the game last week. Pittsburgh defense was pretty stout. I think they rebound against Miami, even though Miami is normally pretty consistent against them. What you say, Coach?
Miami won on a fumble. The Patriots fumbled the ball the last second, and Miami got their win and got a 1-point win last week. But I'm going with Buffalo this time. to go ahead and make a rebound. Josh Allen. Buffalo's got to find some way to find a running game to get some pressure off of Josh Allen. This week may be the week. Doesn't matter. Buffalo's going to win this one.
All right. So before we move into the next game, I have to give a shout out to Tooth Time in our pick'ems for those who signed up to play pick'ems with the Gransberry Chronicles podcast. Tooth Time, that we had several people that tied with 11 points, but with the tiebreakers, he's actually in first place. And so reach out to me. I have a gift card for you. That's right. I have a $10 gift card for you to Chick-fil-A for being week one winner. So shout out to B. Lewis, who needs to remember to pick this week because you forgot to enter your picks. But that's okay. You still have 16 more weeks to go to get a chance. And if you didn't win this week, it's okay because you too still have 16 more chances to win. That's right. We pick a winner every week from our weekly pick'ems contest. You can no longer enter that, but we will start having a weekly trivia question live on the show. You have to be watching the show and answer the question in the comments on the show in order to win. So we're going to move on to the next game, and I'll have that trivia question for you later. All right. Game 3, we have San Fran versus Philly. Okay, two guys who were 1-0 last week, and somebody's taking an L this week. Shout out to local Hurts for getting the win that we expected, right? We expected it. Okay, and then
we all picked Philly.
Yes, and San Fran, it looked like it was getting close to our pick going south. It got close, but close only counts in horseshoes. So the 49ers still pulled it out. But this week, 49ers are on the road. And let's see. Are you Philly D? Or are you Bay 49ers?
Hey, baby. So I'm a baby on this one. I'm going 49ers. I think they're using, so we kind of mentioned Chicago last week and Fields, and I think Fields should be starting. But I kind of like the way that they mixed in Trey Lance with Garoppolo. Garoppolo actually had a really good day, and luckily they had enough lead, like you say, to hold on to that victory. I think this is going to be a good game. I think this is probably a contender for game of the week. It's not the one we actually picked, but I think it's going to be one of those kind of like Baltimore and Vegas was this past week. But I'm going with San Francisco on this one. What you say, Coach?
Sadly, I agree with D. Jones in this one. So I'm gonna go ahead. Even though Hurts, he had a very good game against Atlanta, but San Francisco, they seem like they have a plan to mix in Lance to do a little Jimmy Garoppolo. Maybe this week they'll be able to hold on to a lead if they have a big lead instead of making it Detroit and make a strong comeback off of that. But I'm going with San Francisco on the defense. I think this game is going to be a lot closer than the experts think.
Well, I'm taking chances, and I'm riding with Philly. That's right, setting up solo. I'm filling out a Philly cheesesteak. I'm going to do whatever I need to do, but I'm going to cheer for the local hometown guy and see if he can get it done. So moving on to game 4. That's right. Vegas, our winners from the Monday night matchup, taking us into overtime in week 1 versus the Steelers, who shocked us and took that win from Buffalo last week. This is Pitt's opening weekend game. So, B-Pat, tell me who you taking.
I am going to go with the home team. I'm going with Pittsburgh in this one. From that aspect, Vegas, they had a very stout game against the Ravens on Monday night. Actually, it was pretty fun. We were all three of us were watching it with open eyes, and Derek Carr is getting a little underrated from some aspects of it. But then you got Waller, who was targeted 19 times, and they didn't even apologize for it. So, but I'm gonna go ahead and go with Pittsburgh in this one. They're at home. It's gonna be, the terrible towels going on. First home game with everybody actually being in the building in Pittsburgh is gonna be rocking. I'm going with Big Ben and the Pittsburgh Steelers in this one.
D.
D.
Jones.
Jones.
I'm with Pittsburgh on this one too. Yeah, man, that you mentioned that tight end being targeted 19 times. I mean, I want to say like they can't do that against Pittsburgh, but that what are you gonna do with that dude? It's like,
I mean, that's a bad dude.
you know what's coming, and it's like, okay, it's kind of like what I said about Lamar last week. Speed kills with Lamar. This dude is huge, so just throw it high, let him go get it over everybody else, and then because he makes crazy catches, he makes the strong catches. He's bona fide tight end, but his skills are redunculous. But shout out to him. I think this week David Carr's inaccuracy issues are going to hurt him, even though he had a good game. But he missed a lot of opportunities last week with just being inaccurate on a lot of throws, and it never really stood out to me like it did on Monday night. But I think that's going to come and bite him, and I'm gonna go Pittsburgh. What you say, Gransberry?
Really, it never stood out to you. It was without a doubt that I'm picking those terrible tile folks to get that win. I don't see anything different. I kind of mentioned that as we were watching the Monday night game. And, that's been my thing about him that doesn't put him just, he can't move into an elite category because of those inaccuracies. They don't usually lead to as many turnovers as some are stuck with, but they're costly. They're costly. And just, for him in this situation, his defense was able to give him another opportunity to right his wrongs. And they caught everybody off guard with that play that they came back out with after they had the 5-yard penalty. So perfect coaching down toward the end. Gruden's definitely getting his paycheck in there. So let's move on now to our final games that we're going to talk about. And, Tennessee versus Seattle. Tennessee kind of shocked us last week. Of course, D. Jones, I know you picked Arizona to win, so you're not shocked by them losing. But I think we were all shocked by the play. And I was in attendance at the Houston game, so I couldn't really see what the game looked like. But it was obvious that it wasn't looking too well for Titans. They were sinking ship at that point. And this week they're on the road in Seattle. Seattle has fans. I just don't have any high hopes for them. They're going to go 0-2 for me. So I'm picking Seattle. Coach Pat.
Same thing we were talking about with Pittsburgh, terrible tiles. Now you bring the 12th man back in the building. It is going to be packed. It's going to be loud. Russ almost never really loses in Seattle. So I'm going with Russ on this one. Until Tannehill figures out a way to at least get Jones and Brown and the tight end in the mix, people are going to sit up there and stack up the box on Derrick Henry because Arizona stacked that mug up last week and he only got 7, 8, 10 yards. But in this case, I'm going with the 12th man, Seattle.
Well, he had more yards than that. I think what their problem was really getting down early. So It was pretty much Arizona all day. You can't run when you're down. It's simple as that. You got to throw the ball. And when Chandler Jones is on your back 5 times, it's kind of hard to throw the ball. So y'all already know I'm not betting against that other dude. So Seattle.
That's right. You're not betting against Seattle. Shout out to Sierra for sticking to the Met Gala theme in top standard and wearing a custom dress inspired by Russell with the 3 on it, wearing his championship ring. It was dope all the way. Your girl really loved it. You can send me that purse though, Sierra. I'll take the purse. You keep the ring and the dress, but I'll take the purse. It was a rhinestone, small football purse. I could do many of good things with that purse. Donate to your girl. But anyway, let's move on to Dallas versus Chargers. That's right. Dallas is headed out to LA. SoFi take on the Chargers at home. Still trying to figure out what game will I get to see the Chargers or the Rams. I just got to get in the SoFi in regular season. But okay, let me get out of my head. I've had the tour. But
Golf is gone.
I'm sorry?
Golf is gone.
Golf is gone. Golf is gone. I'm so happy for that, right? So anyway, we have Dallas versus the Chargers. I think Dak gets this road on the win. You know, I understand the Chargers are well put together. They got a good guy under center, but D-Town was looking mighty good on the road in Tampa. So the road not going to be a problem. That weather's going to be gorgeous again. You know, they getting the two good coasts in the first 2 weeks, man. You get Tampa Bay, now you get LA. I'm going with Dallas. Coach?
Well, you know, Dallas lost their best defensive player for what, about 8 to 10 weeks with Lawrence, but their defense looked pretty good and actually trying to contain Brady in some cases last week. The Chargers, they're the Chargers. It don't matter who coaches them. It's the Chargers. I mean, the beginning of the year, they struggle a little bit and they find it out in the middle, and then in the end try to go on the fast. It's the Chargers. I'm going with Dallas.
So you saying the battery's dead. D. Jones.
You act like the Chargers lost last week.
It was like, it's the Chargers.
It's the Chargers, though. But look who they played last week.
Well, I feel you. So, same thing. Look who they played last week. Dallas win that game if there's a different quarterback on the other side with a minute left. So, I'm going Dallas with you guys on this. It's not a lot to say. D-Town.
Okay, so for the home team, that's right. It's Houston versus Cleveland on the road. You know, it's not much in Cleveland. You got the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You know, you have the Football Hall of Fame up the road. You have where they, shot the Christmas Story. I visited the museum, the house. All those things are great. But other than that, LeBron's not with Cavaliers anymore, so you just have the Browns. The Browns. And I distinctly remember last week. Oh, I'm going to be very disrespectful.
He's so disrespectful to the Browns.
I distinctly remember last week saying the Browns' problem would be the guy under center, because he is still not taking the note that sometimes you need to do what's best for the team, not what's best for you. They had another down. He could have completely thrown the ball away. He could have even took a sack and came back and got enough yardage that would allow him in another position. But instead, he overplayed the play. And it was a very costly pass. It wasn't a good attempt and defense made a play. It was a horrible attempt. But these are the decisions that he chooses to make. I don't think that he has to make them. I think he's learned, but he's still in his own way. And so while they definitely have a more put together unit than us, they were in the playoffs last year. This is one of those weeks where I'm going to stay in my fan lane and take my L if possible, that we get the win. But I'm going to pick Houston because that's what I do, right? That's what I do.
Don't do it. Reconsider.
Okay, reconsider.
Read some little.
Okay, look, I'm being honest, right? I know the Browns are a better team right now, even with B for Baker. It's going to get hot in Cleveland. I don't know.
No,
Derek,
you can ride. You can ride. You can ride.
Cleveland, Derek, is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, I'm picking Cleveland. So I think I totally agree with you with Baker. The lessons that Jameis finally seems to have gotten, consistency will show if he's really gotten it, is one of those things that I still think Baker needs to get through that head. It's just like live to fight another down, especially when your team needs you at that particular moment. His mistakes come at the wrong moment. So shout out to my brother-in-law, Jerry from Cleveland. He's not a big Baker fan, but he's a diehard Browns fan. I'm riding with the Browns this week just because I think they get to what works for them, and that's Chubb and Hunt. I do look forward to seeing if Houston will, and their improved run defense will be able to slow them down. They can slow that run game down. I think they definitely have a shot. But I'm going to pick Cleveland here. But Houston will remain at the top of the division since everybody else in the division is going to lose. What you say, Coach?
I like that outcome, though.
I like that. With last week's game, the Browns, Gransberry hit the nail on the head with that. The punter couldn't even field the punt correctly. And then, there's things when you make Baker go off schedule, Baker becomes
Baker.
Baker. And then you come back with the defense, and Cleveland's defense is stout. It's actually, you got Clowney and Garrett on the bookends of that. Then you go to Houston. I don't know about y'all, but they look like a totally different cultured team. No mean person or whatever from that aspect of it. But right now, I'm going with the playoff team allegedly. I'm gonna go with Cleveland in this one for the picks purposes. But like D Jones said, they'll still be winning division after this.
I'm still gonna pick Houston. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. Look, and I'm very clear on, we're not expected to win more than 4 games, and this is definitely not one of the 4 that we are supposed to win. But I want to encourage my guys. I have that leverage to do that, and so that's what I'm going to do.
I'm still upset that we lost.
I'm gonna stick beside them.
I'm still upset that we lost to them last year, 10-9. But it is what it is.
Yes, it is what it is. So with that in mind, and we're pretty clear on that, we're coming up on our game of the week. That's right. It's KC, the team that the Browns lost to in week 1, and Baltimore, who took a tough loss in overtime to Vegas on Monday Night Football. I mean, who could have aligned it any better? We obviously love a Lamar Mahomes matchup, but this is great for Sunday night. This is great from coming off of week 1. Both games really came down to wins based on, a turnover. KC kept their lead because of the turnover and pretty much put a stick in the game. And then the costly turnover by Lamar led to Carrs taking another shot at putting points on the board to win in overtime. So I'm looking forward to this matchup. Baltimore is at home, but unfortunately, I think this is going to be a tough spot for Lamar. Sunday Night Football at home under the lights. KC has no shame in the lights. And look, guys, some of the top defenders were not even in the game. So for KC, so I still am going to give it to the road team this week, and I'm still riding with Mahomes on this. So D Jones, what's your take?
I'm going with Kansas City on this one as well. I don't know if you've been paying attention, but it's a lot of road road victories we picked this week, and I think it's the same on this one. I like what I saw from Baltimore, but I think they still need to get their running game down to where they need it to be and not have to put everything on Lamar's shoulders. And you can see the frustration even with the fumble that he had late. I think that was one of those things where I think he was just trying too hard to make a play. I think if they can, it's going to still take them a while. They got running backs. They are bit with this ACL and different injuries and year-long injuries. So I think it's going to
during the game.
Yeah, they lost somebody else in the game. So I think it's just a bad time for Kansas City to come to town for them. I think if they had Kansas City a couple more weeks down the season, I might think differently. But I think this Kansas City may be just a little bit too much for them. But they definitely, I think it'll be a very entertaining game to watch on Sunday. But I'm gonna go Kansas City. What you say, Coach?
Lamar, you're right. Lamar did try a little harder than a couple of fumbles, but I'm starting to believe that's going to start becoming a problem because he's done it in some games. But like I said, he's trying to make a play, like D Jones said. In that case, I'm going with the road team in this one. Kansas City is going to come back. They're going to be ready for the run-heavy offense. Not saying that Baltimore is not going to come back from 0-2 later on in the season, but I just believe Kansas City is just going to go in there, take care, treat it as a business trip, and they don't get rattled. they're down 10 points, it's like, okay, we're down 10 points. So it's 10 times, I believe Mahomes came back with 10 plus points or more from coming down. And Lord, we know that from the Texans playoff game. But I'm going with Mahomes at this one. They seem like they got a running game as well. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs on the road.
Hey, coach, real quick, and then I'm about. But when you said you think his fumbling is going to be a problem, I think it's going to be correlation to how Brett Favre interceptions used to be.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was one of those, it can happen, but but it's accepted in a sense because of what he's trying to do. He holds the ball, so if you get close to him, the way he kind of holds, he doesn't really tuck. So yeah, it could be a problem, but it's one of those, damned if you do, damned if you don't type situations.
Right.
Because he can break an 80-yard on you holding the ball the same way. So it's one of those, no, yes, kind of situation. But I do agree with you. It could be a problem if it continues to happen. That's why they need to get some of that pressure off of him.
I like the correlation with the Brett Favre, and because they're going to come back. He's not going to stop fighting. He's going to try to make a play. But I also believe they're going to trust a running back sooner or later, whether it's Bell, Freeman, Murray. Somebody's going to step up with that group. And like you said, it's going to take a couple of weeks with that from the running game's perspective. And his passing is very much improving. There was a couple of drops I saw in the game, but I just don't want that to become an issue. Getting 2 fumbles a game. What's his name? Dave Craig from the Seahawks that had a fumble almost every game. So I just don't want that to become an issue. But you're right about the correlation.
Well, I have a few things that I want to say before we get off tonight. One would be, we had a great week in the NFL this week for week 1. I was pretty pleased overall with the performances. I don't think we had surprises in losses, but we didn't really have, I would say, bad games, right? And week 1, sometimes we're not really sure if every game's going to be the game you want to end up having to watch. We didn't really have games that everybody was like, "Ooh, man, they could have took off that one." I wanted to give a shout out to Miss Chaka for being our first Black female referee this past weekend in the NFL. That's a major improvement to the NFL and moving toward change. We need all types of change. I'm loving it. And I'm going to have a 2-part trivia. This first trivia question that I'm going to ask, you will have to inbox me to give me the answer, and I'm going to pick the winner because we'll be off the air. But if I get an answer before we get off, then I'll give it out. The second question that I give, you will have to answer it on the next show within the first 5 minutes of the show. I will prompt you to answer the question from the end of this show. So the question that wins for this week, this show, is what team had the most passing yards for week 1? You need to inbox me the answer. The answer. You can't put it in the comments on the show thread. You have to inbox me the answer, and I will pick the winner, and you agree that I can tell that you won. And the question for next week is, what was Derrick Jones, D. Jones, my co-host, what was his first road trip? Where was his first road trip to? Where did he first travel to see an NFL game on the road? You will have to answer that question in the first 5 minutes of next week's show. And so, Coach Pat, tell everybody where they can find you so we can send them off with a great evening.
You can hit me on Twitter and Instagram, Coach B Pat.
Entanglements all day.
Whatever.
Jones.
All right, you can find me on Instagram at djones9804, on Twitter, that boy D Jones. Hit me up.
And your girl at Gransberry keeps it simple. That's right. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. I stick to the Gransberry, and you can always get a copy of my book. Get it for a friend, a lover, a homegirl, a chick, a dude. It doesn't matter. They all
Entanglement.
enjoy this book. No entanglements though. No entanglements found in this book. We have man cave laws for you guys out there. Look, I try to help you out and keep it straight. Okay. Because look, if you don't know, hey, I got some great rules you can give out to folks to keep things straight on Sunday. Check out my TikTok to see what I'm talking about when you get a chance. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel because you can catch all of our shows there back for you to enjoy anytime you would like. And as always, because as we do it here, and we know Coach B Pat is looking for you to holla in his DM.